When the phone rang that morning, I almost didn't pick it up. It was a number from the local branch of First Savannah Bank. I'd been their customer for nearly 40 years, so I assumed it was some routine update about interest rates or account statements. But the voice on the line wasn't cheerful. It was careful. "Mrs. Whitmore, this is Jason from the bank. Could you come in today? It's important." I drove down Bay Street in my old Buick, the same one my husband, Robert, had loved to polish every Sunday. The air smelled faintly of salt from the river. Inside the branch, Jason stood waiting, young, polite, nervous. He led me to a glass-walled office and closed the door behind us. "Mrs. Whitmore," he began softly, "a man came in last week claiming to be your son, Daniel Whitmore. He presented documents stating that you were no longer capable of managing your own finances. He tried to close your primary account." For a moment, the world narrowed. The hum of the air conditioner, the muffled phone rings outside, it all blurred. "He said I was what?" I asked quietly. Jason looked genuinely uneasy. "He submitted a power of attorney form signed under your name, along with a doctor's note confirming early dementia." He hesitated before adding, "We didn't process anything. Something about it didn't feel right." He slid the documents across the desk. I stared at the signature, my name written in a shaky imitation. The doctor's note was from a clinic I'd never visited. A notary stamp bled ink near the bottom, smudged just enough to look rushed. At the end of the form, Daniel's name appeared neatly typed. I took a long breath, the kind that steadies you more than calms you. "Thank you for calling me, Jason. I'd like to revoke any and all access he might have claimed." He nodded, opening a folder of forms. As I signed each line, my hand stayed steady. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because shock has a strange way of sharpening you. When I finished, I looked up at him and managed a small, even smile. "He hasn't stolen my money yet," I said, "but he already took something far more valuable." When I got home, I placed my purse on the counter and sat at the kitchen table. The papers from the bank were still in their envelope. For a few minutes, I just stared at them. The afternoon light slipped through the lace curtains, tracing soft patterns on the wooden surface. Everything looked so normal: the tea kettle, the stack of mail, the small vase of magnolias. And yet, nothing was. I pulled out the forged documents, spreading them across the table like a map of betrayal. Every line was filled with precision: my address, my date of birth, my supposed medical condition. There was even a letter from a clinic in Atlanta, signed by a Dr. Carson, who apparently believed I was in the early stages of memory loss. The signature, the seal, even the watermark looked official enough to fool anyone who didn't know better. I did know better. My eyes landed on Daniel's name again, printed neatly at the bottom. For a moment, I saw not the man who forged these lies, but the little boy who once cried when I threw away his broken toy truck. He couldn't stand to lose anything, not even something already broken. Maybe that's what this was, his grown-up version of refusing to let go. I folded the papers carefully and slid them back into the envelope. Then I reached for the phone and called Jason again. "Please make sure my account is flagged," I told him. "No access for anyone but me, no matter what name they bring." He promised to do so. After I hung up, I sat in silence, listening to the faint creaks of the house. Robert built these walls to last. I wondered if he ever imagined the person we loved most would try to tear them down. I brushed my hand over the table and whispered, "Not yet, Daniel. Not ever." The next morning, I brewed coffee the way Robert liked it, 2 scoops, no sugar, strong enough to wake the dead. I needed it. The night before, sleep had been impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's name beneath that forged signature. My son, the boy I raised with everything I had, now trying to erase me with a pen stroke. After breakfast, I walked to the hallway cabinet and unlocked the bottom drawer. Inside was a box filled with old checkbooks, receipts, and faded bank statements. I carried it to the dining table, dust rising like ghosts of all the times I'd helped him. Then I began sorting through them one by one. The first check I ever wrote for Daniel was for $75, his high school football trip to Jacksonville. Then came the college tuition, the first apartment deposit, wedding expenses, a car loan I paid off when he hit a rough patch. The list went on: medical bills, credit card debt, therapy after the divorce, and a second car when Melissa said she needed something safer for the baby. I began writing the amounts in a notebook, a habit I'd kept since my teaching days. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. By the time I reached the last page, the total read $389,450. And that wasn't counting the groceries, the holidays, or the times I quietly slipped him cash so he wouldn't be embarrassed in front of his wife. I set down the pen and stared at the total. It looked unreal, like someone else's life. I had given him more than money. I'd given him forgiveness, over and over, each check a small apology for loving him too much. For the first time in years, I felt something inside me shift. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. This wasn't about losing money. It was about finally realizing what I'd been paying for all along, peace I never received. By noon, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to cry, and I wasn't going to call Daniel. I was going to call someone who understood consequences. Caroline Hartman had been our attorney for years. She'd helped Robert and me set up our wills after his first heart attack, and I trusted her more than anyone outside the family. When she picked up, her voice was steady as always. "Helen, it's been too long. What's going on?" "I need to change my will," I said simply, "and revoke every power of attorney that has my son's name on it." Caroline didn't ask for details. She must have heard the tone in my voice, the kind that comes from the end of patience, not the start of grief. "Come by this afternoon," she said. "I'll clear my schedule." At her office, she listened as I told her everything: the forged signature, the doctor's note, the fake story about dementia. She took notes in her tidy handwriting, pausing only once. "Do you want to press charges?" she asked. "Not yet," I replied, "but I want protection." She nodded. "We can revoke everything immediately, and I assume you want to adjust the inheritance?" "Yes," I said. "My granddaughter Grace will be the new beneficiary. Set up a trust in her name. She's the only one who still visits because she wants to, not because she's keeping score." For the next hour, we went through documents, signatures, and legal jargon. When it was done, Caroline gathered the papers neatly and smiled. "You've taken back control, Helen. That's no small thing." Outside, the air felt lighter than it had in days. I stood on the sidewalk, looked up at the bright Georgia sky, and whispered to myself, "Let him call me weak now." 3 days passed before Daniel called. The first 2 times, I ignored the ringing. On the third, curiosity won. His voice came through soft, almost rehearsed. "Mom, I think there's been some confusion. The bank must have mixed up the paperwork." I stayed silent. He sighed dramatically. "Melissa and I were just trying to make sure everything was handled in case something happened to you. You know how forgetful you've been lately?" My grip on the phone tightened. "Forgetful," I said. "You mean the kind of forgetful that lets me sign every tuition check and pay every bill you ever sent my way?" He chuckled awkwardly. "Mom, please, let's not get emotional. We're family." "Family." The word landed heavy. "You forged my signature, Daniel." "That's not how it happened," he said quickly. "Melissa had a friend at the notary office. Maybe the form got mixed up. Look, we'll fix it. Just don't make this a big deal." "It's already a big deal," I said quietly. "You tried to take my life's work and call it love." There was silence, the kind that stretches too long, until you can almost hear the truth breathing on the other end. Finally, he said, "You're blowing this out of proportion. If you start changing things legally, people will talk." "Let them," I replied. "I've spent enough years keeping quiet for your comfort." The next morning, his car pulled up in front of my house. I watched from the porch as he got out, same confident stride, same expensive jacket I'd probably helped pay for. He climbed the steps and stopped 2 feet away. "Mom, I'm here to talk face to face." "No," I said evenly. "You're here to convince me to forget." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "You think being my son gives you rights to my decisions, my accounts, my dignity? It doesn't. You didn't earn those things, you borrowed them." His jaw tightened. "I was trying to help." "No, Daniel, you were trying to inherit early." He stared at me, searching for the version of me who would cave. She wasn't there anymore. I turned, opened the door, and before stepping inside said, "You haven't lost my money yet, but you've already lost your mother." Then I closed the door. Not slammed, not locked, just closed. Quietly, completely. For a few days there was silence. Then the storm began. It started with a polite email from Melissa, my daughter-in-law. The subject line read, "Let's talk, Mom." The message was syrupy and rehearsed, full of phrases like family unity and misunderstandings. She wrote that Daniel had only been acting out of concern, and that I should reconsider the recent legal changes for the sake of peace. Attached was a photo of Grace from a year ago, smiling at Thanksgiving, like guilt could be softened by nostalgia. I didn't reply. 2 days later, Pastor Evans from our local church called. "Helen, I'm not sure what's going on," he said gently, but Daniel came by. He seemed worried about you said you've been making rash decisions and forgetting details. His tone was kind, but underneath it, I could hear the seed of doubt they were planting. Thank you, Pastor, I said calmly, but please tell my son I remember more than he wants me to. By the end of the week, a man named Peter from a financial advisory firm left a voicemail, introducing himself as Daniel's consultant. He spoke with the confidence of someone who thought age meant weakness. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, I'd love to assist in reorganizing your estate to ensure your legacy remains intact. I didn't bother calling him back. Instead, I forwarded the message to Caroline, who replied with 3 words, let me handle it. That weekend at church, I noticed the glances, the whispers that stopped when I turned. It didn't hurt the way I expected. It only reminded me how fast truth becomes rumor when people prefer lies that sound polite. I went home, brewed tea, and sat by the window. The magnolia tree swayed in the breeze, steady, unbothered. That's how I wanted to be rooted, not reactive. They could spread stories. They could call me forgetful, fragile, senile. But I knew the truth. Silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. The rumors didn't stop. They never do when silence unnerves people more than shouting. So I decided to give them something true to talk about. On Monday morning, I called the Savannah Public Library and asked to reserve their community room for Wednesday evening. Is this for a book club? The woman on the phone asked. No, I said. It's for a story. Mine. I printed a small stack of flyers on my old home printer, black and white, nothing fancy. Wednesday, 7 p.m. A quiet retelling by Helen Whitmore. Free and open to all. I left a few at the coffee shop, the florist, and even one on the church bulletin board. Then I waited. When the night came, I wore my navy dress and Robert's old pearl brooch. The library lights were warm, soft. A few rows of folding chairs filled quickly. Neighbors, church members, a woman from the grocery store, even 2 young girls holding notebooks. And in the back, near the exit, stood Melissa. No Daniel. Of course not. He never faced what he started. I stepped to the front, no microphone, just me and a small podium. Good evening, I began. My name is Helen Whitmore. I've lived in this town for 56 years. I'm not here to ask for sympathy or to gossip. I'm here to tell you the truth because it's been told for me long enough. The room quieted. I told them about the forged documents, the fake doctor's note, the attempt to declare me incompetent. I spoke of my son's entitlement, my silence, my mistake of confusing help with control. My voice didn't shake. It had been waiting too long for this. When I finished, I looked straight at Melissa. If protecting myself is called betrayal, then I suppose I've finally learned how to betray correctly. No applause followed, just stillness, the kind that means people are thinking. When it ended, a few came forward, touched my hand, said nothing. Grace hugged me last, whispering, "You looked taller tonight." I smiled. That's what happens when you stop bowing. A week passed after the library reading, and the town settled into a strange quiet. The whispers faded. The pitying looks turned into nods of respect. But I knew Daniel and Melissa well enough to recognize silence as planning, not peace. It came in the mail one Thursday afternoon, a thick white envelope marked confidential. The return address read Whitmore Associates, a firm Daniel had worked for years ago. I made myself a cup of tea before opening it. The smell of bergamot steadied me. Inside was a neatly typed letter. Dear Mrs. Whitmore, it began. In the interest of preserving family dignity, we propose the following. You agree to dissolve the trust in Grace's name and reinstate the previous distribution of your estate. In exchange, we will cease all legal inquiries and refrain from further contact. It ended with their signatures, not a lawyer's, just Daniel and Melissa's, side by side like a pair of signatures on a receipt for shame. I read it twice, then a third time. Every word was soaked in manipulation disguised as respect. They weren't asking for reconciliation. They were demanding silence, my silence. I pulled out a small card and wrote only 2 lines. No, my dignity was never yours to negotiate. I sealed it in an envelope, stamped it, and left it on the hall table for Grace to mail when she next visited. That evening, as the sun sank behind the magnolia tree, I felt something new. Not triumph, not revenge, just peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop explaining why you deserve to keep what's already yours. Grace came by the next morning, her hair still damp from the rain. She brought muffins from the cafe downtown and the same wide eyes she'd had as a child. They're quiet, she said, sitting down at the kitchen table. Too quiet. Dad unfriended me. Deleted every photo of us. I poured her a cup of tea. Let him delete, I said gently. We still have memory. She gave a small, shaky laugh. He says I'm choosing sides. You're not choosing sides, I replied. You're choosing truth. There's a difference. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The house was filled with the smell of tea and rain, the kind of stillness that feels earned. Grace stared down at her mug. Do you ever regret it? She asked, standing up like that, making it all public. I thought about the night at the library, the faces, the hush, the freedom of saying things out loud that had been rotting in silence. No, I said finally. The only thing I regret is waiting so long to stop apologizing for being right. Her eyes glistened. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, Grandma. That word still made my throat tighten. I squeezed back. I'm proud of you too, Grace. You didn't ask for money, you didn't ask for power, but you stayed. And that's worth more than both. Before she left, I gave her the sealed envelope with my short reply to Daniel's letter. She looked at it, then at me. You're sure about this? Completely, I said. He wanted a response. He'll get one, just not the one he expected. When she drove off, I stood by the window, watching her car disappear down the wet road. For the first time in a long while, I felt light, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped losing. Days turned into weeks, and the world moved on as if nothing had happened. But inside my small red brick house in Savannah, everything had changed. The quiet no longer felt heavy. It felt earned, like the kind that settles after a storm that has finally spent itself. The mailbox stayed empty for days. No letters, no lawyers, no more claims to family dignity. I watered the garden, read the newspaper, and let life shrink back to ordinary size. On Sunday morning, Grace arrived with cinnamon rolls, still warm from the oven. We ate them in the kitchen with the window open, the air soft with the smell of rain and sugar. They've stopped calling, she said. Completely? Good, I answered. Let the silence do the talking for once. She looked at me for a long moment. Do you think he'll ever come around? I smiled faintly. Maybe. But I won't wait for it. Waiting was how I lost most of my peace. She nodded slowly. You're not angry anymore. No, I said. Anger takes energy. I'd rather spend mine living. Before she left, she hugged me tight, the kind of hug that feels like an answer to every unasked question. I love you, she whispered. I know, I said. That's why you'll be fine. After she drove away, I sat by the window with my tea and opened my notebook, its last page still blank. I wrote one final line. Let the silence you choose be the peace they never gave you. I tucked it beside the trust papers and closed the drawer. Outside, the magnolia tree had lost most of its blossoms, but the few that remained held on stubbornly against the wind. I thought of Grace, of Caroline, of every woman who'd ever been told she was too old to matter, too gentle to fight, too quiet to win. Maybe this story wasn't about revenge at all. Maybe it was about reclamation of dignity, of self, of voice. And if anyone out there needed to hear it, I'd tell them this: you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone forgiveness that comes chained to fear. It's never too late to stand your ground. If this story meant something to you, share it. Someone might still be waiting for a sign that it's time to speak.